I'm here tonight because you wanted me to be.
I'm glad you came, because I think you're gonna like it. Let's get nuts!
You are so twisted.
Let's face it, you're a knockout.
The Encyclopedia Galactica, in its chapter on love, states that it is far too complicated to define. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has this to say on the subject of love. Avoid, if at all possible.
Good evening to the Bahamas and the world. It's After Hours with yours truly, Sexy Vanessa. Gotta send a big shout out to Street King Records and of course the one and only Tino, the producer, who is of course keeping an eye on me in studio tonight. And I think last week I kind of threw him for a loop, man. Yeah, he knew it was gonna be fun, but he didn't know it was gonna be that much fun, you know? I think it's Kevin Hart who says that he wasn't ready, right? That was Tino last week, man. So I don't know if he's ready this week, but I think I've gotten him to the point where he probably expects the unexpected. So he's readier than he was before. Readier or more ready? I don't know, something like that, man. Listen, it's a 420 friendly environment. Right now, we're having a great time. As always, of course, I got to say, we had such wonderful feedback, man. Yeah. First show. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, okay, you know, probably like 2 people are going to listen, but it was a heck of a lot more than 2 people. And not only were the plays great to see, but all the wonderful comments, man. I got to say special thanks to my girl, Kesia, aka Bahama Mama. You know, we published last week, Sunday night. That's the first episode. And she was actually driving back to North Carolina from the Tampa Bay area where I grew up. And she said she listened to us on the way, had to download SoundCloud just for the purpose, right? She had no idea what it was, but she's like, I downloaded it, and she said it was the best hour of her drive. So special thanks to her. She's been a supporter from the time, I actually learned just this weekend, she's been supporting us from the time that I started the Facebook group for the commentary, which was actually way back in November. So yeah, special thanks to her, man. And of course, you got to remember, follow us on SoundCloud, right? After Hours with Sexy Vanessa. New episodes are published every Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. That's why it's called After Hours. And we're also on Twitter, and you can join the conversation, as I mentioned, in our Facebook group at After Hours 242. And you can find me on Facebook at More Sexy Vanessa, as well as YouTube. Okay, yeah, we added the podcast to YouTube, so now you have no excuse not to keep up with every sultry episode. All right, and of course, speaking of YouTube, like I mentioned, you know, last week, first episode, and, you know, last Sunday night, I caught a flight, and, you know, I sat back, listened as well, and I only got like 3 hours sleep after that, right? I get up, but I was feeling good, man. I was energized, really feeling the buzz, you know? It was a great day for me. And so I'm like, listen, I'm gonna listen to some Madonna because she's all, you know, like girl power. That was my thing that morning. So I go there and I put on some Immaculate Collection, right? Which for those of you who don't know is one of her albums back in the day. And no, I didn't like put in a CD or anything. Like I pulled it up on YouTube and I was watching the video for Like a Prayer, which is actually one of my favorite songs from Madonna. Like, I don't know, the energy in that song is just so incredible. If you've never listened to it, I don't know what rock you've been under, but you should definitely go and try it out, right? Awesome, awesome song. And as I'm watching the video, I'm thinking like, I must have never seen this before because it was like completely woke. I'm talking about like Black Jesus. You understand? Like talking about the demonization of a people, like completely woke. And mind you, I think I was too young, obviously, at the time. I mean, I was born in 84. So I would have been too young to experience the commentary that would have come around this music at the time when it actually came out. But I definitely got to know the songs, and you know, I am so looking forward now to actually doing an episode on like the ownership of sexuality, because you know, that's really what the media has put out there about Madonna, that you know, she's the material girl. But when you look at the commentary that's attached to it, it's a whole different thing. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a good one. But I got to send a big shout out to Madonna. thank you again. Just another female entertainer out there in the world who made it a little bit easier for me. And again, I hope I make it easier for someone who comes behind me. And of course, speaking of Madonna and social commentary, today's show is actually brought to you in part by the Laugh My Ass Off. Yes, I did say that. It's internet. We can do that. The Laugh My Ass Off Island Comedy Experience. All right, it's all going down May 20th right here in Nassau, Bahamas at St. John's College Auditorium. And it's actually being brought to you by a good friend of mine. Yeah, my boy Ken from NYC. I mentioned him last episode, some of my Rum Fest roadies. And as a matter of fact, last week when I was publishing, I was supposed to be hanging out with him and DJ Hannibal. And so special shout out to them. But of course, the Laugh My Ass Off Island Comedy Experience, it's all about major hype. Okay. Yes. Now we're going to have some other great people there too. MTV's Wildin' Out's Rip Michaels, he's going to be in town as well. And of course, we have the Get Off King here from Nassau, and the Bahamian King of Comedy, Naughty, is going to be in the house. But major hype, when you talk about social commentary, okay? If you've never seen him, you got to search for him. Look him up on Facebook, MAJAH, hype, right? HYPE. Go ahead, spell the rest of it, right? But check him out, because this thing is all about different Caribbean, not just accents, but the way that different Caribbean cultures come on, you know? And I think it's really cool because a lot of people, and for me, I think it happened with Cool Runnings, like Jamaica so well advertised their culture that now all the people in the world think that everyone from the Caribbean says like, Amen, you know? Like we're all just Rastas, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like that. Like that is so not true. Like, listen, I'm telling you, being in Nassau, I used to work in retail tourism downtown, and the things that people would ask you, and then they'll be like, "Oh, so you can just like walk down the street smoking weed, right?" Like, no, bro. And as a matter of fact, I don't even think you can do that in Jamaica. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not legal, right? But again, it's all this like stereotype and what's perpetuated, right? So one of the things that Major Hype does, I mean, when he actually breaks down, because for us as Caribbean people, you know, we know the difference. We understand the difference between Bahamians and Jamaicans and Haitians and the Guyanese and everyone else. So he breaks down all the great accents and cultures, and I'm telling you, he's just incredible. Check him out. He has some great characters, you know, like what's her name? Who's actually like an American girl. She has the line like, "Are you dumb?" She treats her boyfriend real bad. We got to talk about that. But it's going to be great. Like I said, May 20th, St. John's Auditorium here in Nassau, Bahamas. So definitely make your plans to come out for that. All right. And big ups to Major Hype and my boy Ken from NYC. And of course, speaking of jokes, as you see, my mouth is a little sharp, right? And my wit is sharper. Yes, I will admit, right? And I got into some trouble this week on the playground. Tino saw it. We had two groups. There were two groups. But I got kicked out of one. I got kicked out of a group this week. Yeah, and it's so funny because, you know, last week we were talking about social media, and I had all this social media drama in my life this week. So I get, and I was admin of the group too. It was, they had a problem, but that was cool. So, you know, we still have our after hours group. That was a whole different thing going on. But we got our after hours group, which is of course a lot of fun. And then I got in trouble on social media today with a local personality who will remain nameless, but it's somebody that I respect a lot as someone in the industry, and you know, I absolutely love her voice. And you know, there was this thing, you know, Friday the 13th was this past Friday, and here, and now I'm gonna say this, right? Let me put a disclaimer on this before anybody runs out and say, "Oh, y'all talking about voodoo and this and that and the rest," right? Now, listen, even for my international listeners, good evening again. Yeah, y'all have them white boys who be doing them satanic rituals, okay? So don't act like y'all ain't Marilyn Manson down over there, all right? All right? There's some real stuff, okay? So I don't want nobody carry on like the Bahamas is just running around with chicken style and then because it ain't like that, okay? The chickens are free, all right? This is how we doing this. Now, Friday the 13th went by, right? This is how the fight started, as Mummy saying. Friday the 13th was just this past Friday, and there was this video on Facebook of this woman. You saw it, Tino? You saw the Obeah woman, right? Obeah is another word for I guess what people would term dark magic or I guess the equivalent to what Haitians would term voodoo, something like that, right? Tino? Like, yeah, right? Magic. All right. So apparently this woman gets up in a house around 3 o'clock in the morning. She says in the video, and the video is like, this woman standing out on her porch, some woman is standing out on this other lady's porch, right? In like this white, like she had on a black thing and like a white robe, and then she had like 2 Bibles and another book, and apparently she had like unscrewed the people's light bulb or something and put in her own bulb, like some real crazy stuff. And allegedly, because she was arrested, like this actually happened, allegedly she had been to some other people's house, and like who knows what was going on. I don't know if she was just too into the Friday the 13th thing or what exactly her problem was, but this personality went online, was saying how she just thought it was so fake, and and the woman was praying, but how can you pray and have time to record the thing? And I was just like, well, whoa man, like I'd be trying to record the thing too, because I'd be scared. Like it's natural to want to record the thing, because what is the woman doing out there? And then and I thought it was kind of like harsh, because I'm very spiritual, but I try not to be judgmental in areas like to say, well, what should happen while you're praying, or you didn't say those words. Like, that's your spiritual relationship with God. I don't know how y'all talk to each other. I ain't even much trying to get in that. And I wasn't going to say anything, right? But then, I'm Rick James, okay? So I was like, I was feeling myself, man. I'm like, no, I'm going to stand up for what's right. And so I made a comment, and I was like, man, I really don't know how this is going to go. But after I made the comment, then like some other people kind of like stood up too, and, was making similar comments. And then when you look, she deleted the whole post. So I don't know. By the time I finished with the show, she might have unfriended me. I'm not sure. But I will say this. I value, just as in the situation with Madonna, I'm sure it wasn't easy for her to make the commentary that she made at the time. And I think nowadays, we have so much opportunity and so many platforms to influence, no matter how big or small your circle is, with, what we deem is right and moral, and, do it nicely and tempered. I wasn't nasty about it or anything. I was, just saying, hashtag just saying, right? But yeah, man, don't be afraid to speak up. It's good to speak up, you know what I mean? And even if it's me, hey, if you guys hear me say something, you're like, hey, wait, SexyVanessa, I have a problem with that. By all means, post it with no profanity, please, on our social media pages. Like I said, you can find us on Facebook, SoundCloud, all over, man. Let us know how you feel, all right? It's an open discussion. And, I guess just overall my thing was, you really can't account for how some people think. And of course, that brings us to our topic for the evening. Yeah, what are we talking about? The psychology of sex, okay? Yes, the psychology of sex. Now, last week, like I said, we started on sex and social media, and we will continue on that. But a major part of the sex and social media scene is like the sex craze that exists, right? We mentioned it, and how easy it is for persons to like become sex crazed because of all this media that is just so accessible, right? All right. So I kind of figured to truly continue that conversation, we kind of need to take a step back and look at the psychology of sex, like how we think about it, moreover, how it was previously thought about and intended to be thought about, and then how we've arrived at our current mindset. Yeah, makes sense? I think it makes sense. Follow me. Yeah, we're going down the rabbit hole, folks. Let's go. All right. The first thing I want to say before anyone gets up in arms again is that I personally believe that there is nothing wrong with it. Sex, that is. There's nothing wrong with sex. No, I'm not like R. Kelly. There might be something wrong with a little bump and grind, depending on how you do it, right? Okay, we're not going to make any R. Kelly jokes. It's too easy. We're going to leave that one alone. But overall, there's nothing wrong with the desire to have sex, okay? That's what it's about. That's how you're wired. That's how you're set up. But we must be mindful of the fact that right now, we are also set up with this thing that's called intellect, right? And so because of that, we're allowed to intellect allows you to push the boundaries to go either for good or for evil, if you know what I mean. It could let you kind of go too far, right? And that's why we're given this thing called self-control that is supposed to balance all of that out, right? That's supposed to compensate for everything. Now, let's talk. I know you're like, wait, where's she going with this? Let's bring it around, right? Let's talk about sex and purpose and desire. And my main thing is, when you talk about the psychology of sex and what people think about it, the first question that I had was really, why do we seek it out? What is it that compels people, whether it be through social media, like we were talking about before, whether it be, you know, picking up a girl on the side of the road, whether it be accepting the ride from the dude who picks you up on the side of the road, knowing that he won't juice you, as Bahamians would say. Ah, Lord. He juice you, eh? Ah, my. Listen. Listen, it's a serious thing because we act as though, listen, people tell you, oh, well, you know, and it just happened. Listen, it's not very often that things just happen, like, you know, spontaneous combustion. No, it's usually a series of events that kind of leads to that. And oftentimes when you've gotten far enough in life, you know, you can play ignorant to those events, but most times you saw it coming and you kind of let it happen, if you know what I mean, right? Now, we have a poll up in our Facebook group again at After Hours 242. The poll is still up, so you can go ahead and go vote, and we'll talk about it again in the next episode and see, you know, where everybody's weighing in. But the question was, why do you have sex, right? Okay, there were options, okay? So the first answer was physical release. Second was emotional release or connection, right? Which is a valid point as well. The third answer was because my partner expects it, which is another situation. You know, and I we'll talk about that a little later, right? But the married people who just like ain't getting it or only doing it like once a week or whenever, like make appointments for it because, you know, it's like an obligation kind of thing. Yeah, we got to talk about that. But again, a valid answer, right? Because my partner expects it. Or, of course, the last answer was sex, what sex? And I have to say right now, I am single like a dollar bill. So my answer was sex, what sex? But, you know, generally speaking, my answer would be for that emotional connection, you know? Yes, the physical is obviously wonderful and everything else. But I would never say that I have ever had a desire to seek out sex, like, oh, I'm just so stressed out, let me go have sex. Now, I obviously do not represent everyone else. So in the poll so far, we have quite a number of people that have expressed yes for physical release. And it's about 50-50 right now in terms of physical versus emotional connection or release, right? That's cool. We also discussed this in our WhatsApp group, After Hours 242 again. And there were some guys who did admit that, you know, yeah, maybe not a lot of times, but a fair amount of times it is just about that physical release, you know? And that would explain why so much I don't want to use the harsh word. It's internet, right? Can I say it? So much fucking duck. I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. Y'all let Chrissy say all those words and y'all still listen to her anyway. But that's why you have so much hit and runs, because obviously it was about a physical release. It wasn't about making any connection or coming back or, you know, trying to establish anything. Likewise, though, it wasn't just the guys who expressed that, because one of my very good friends, now I didn't ask her if I could call her name on the show, so I'm not going to do that, but she is in the group and I'm going to ask her after this if I could call her name, and I'll call her name next week, right? That's my girl. That's my road dog. She said that for her, it is actually about physical release. Now, she's not trying to get tied down to nobody. Tino knows what I'm talking about. Like, she is like, what? At 1 hour tops, I don't want to get tied down to nobody. I ain't like, you know, like she just got in a relationship for, she says the first time, like 7 years. I've known her for a long time, since my son was, just a year or two old. And yeah, I have to say, I find it hilarious. She's going to kill me. But I know, because she's not the type who really wants to stick around. It's more about having, you know, an experience with you. Now, not to say she's into like one night stands, but it's more about, okay, let's date. She wants to date, you know what I mean? And okay, we date and we have a great time, but you know what? I'm not trying to get married. She doesn't want kids, which is cool. You know, she has a big family and lots of sisters and stuff. So she doesn't have that desire, you know? And I just say that to say, you know, we talk a lot of times and say, oh, well, it's the guys who are all about the physical release. But she is just evidence that, yes, there are women out there who are likewise, what did Lauryn Hill say? That thing, they just all about the thing, man, right? They're all about the thing. Now, overall, again, I realized in reading the results and in talking to the folks in the group that, like, no one said, and I didn't even think about adding it as an option, no one said, like, they have sex to have babies. Like, no one brought it up. I didn't remember it. And it made me realize in reflection that sex is no longer fully instinctual, as it originally was. Right now, we have a choice about when and why, and nowadays also how, right? That's a whole different show. That'll be the after hours show, right? Yeah, but yeah, definitely. That's like, listen, you can't find that. We can put that deep next to Howard Stern, okay? But yeah, it's that thing where you have a choice about why you're having sex and when you're going to have sex. It's not just, I mean, I guess it is still hormonal to an extent, but not necessarily, because it doesn't always have to go with a rise and fall of your natural cycle. It could just be because you thought about it that day and you trying to get some, right? And again, guys have cycles too. We'll talk about that when Dr. Miller comes on the show, all right? Yeah, it's a whole thing. Trust me, right? So let's talk about this sex thing, which obviously we're talking about, but let's talk about our choice and that versus our original instinct, right? We're gonna go all the way back. I'm taking you way back. Let's talk about Adam and Eve, okay? Yeah, I know you're like, what the? How long is tonight's show? Let's talk about Adam and Eve, right? Now, I know about y'all, but I've been kind of taught about Adam and Eve in such a way that it was basically like God made them, and like the next day, this hungry chica went and like ruined the whole vibe. Okay, again, the vibe is the thing, right? It's just like one day they were there, and the next day she frigged it up. Okay, that's pretty much like how you're taught about it. Like, and that's kind of how you think. Like, you never think about the amount of time that it could have been, that they were really in the garden in between these events, right? And so I realized, and it kind of comes up because, a lot of times people ask, well, when Cain killed Abel, and Cain was like, oh, if anybody find me, they could kill me. And he had a wife. They're like, well, where did she come from? And who are the people who could kill him? Well, if you really think about it, right? At the end of the day, Adam and Eve could have been populating the earth for years before the fall of man. Like, they could have been, like, really, because it don't tell you how long it was before, and if you really, okay, let's get deep, right? If you really think about it, right? Okay, wops, we can take a little sidebar. If you think about it, apparently the serpent was Satan, right? Or one of the fallen angels, right? Now, why did the angels fall? We're told the angels fell because they lusted after the daughters of men. So what that mean? That they had to be in the garden long enough to make some daughters, as the rest of them would say, right? For the angels to lust after, in order for these things to happen before, you understand? Then the angels were cast down and bound to the earth and couldn't go back and forth. We'll talk about that in a whole different show. Like, that'll be a whole different podcast. But you understand what I'm saying, right? There were some daughters out there, okay? And to me, when you realize all of this, you realize Adam and Eve, right? Right? This is the reason I'm pointing it out. Adam and Eve, if they were having babies, that means they were having sex, okay? Again, that's where the babies come from. So Adam and Eve are in the garden for all these years, right? Even prior to, in my estimation, the knowledge of good and evil. Just like doing the do, right? Like, just like natural on their wife. You understand what I'm saying? They juicing, okay? That's what they doing. We like that word as Bahamians. I don't know. My mom doesn't like that word. She thinks it's harsh. But I think it's probably the nicest word for sex that there is. It's who doesn't like juice? Everybody likes juice, We have a smoothie store called Juicin' for Life. Yeah. Shout out to the Natural Empress. Great smoothies. They really do have them. For our international listeners, you ever come to Nassau, just ask somebody, where do you find Juicin' for Life? Oh, man. Oh, it's a good night. So, okay, Adam and Eve, right? They doing the do in the garden. They having the babies, right? Now, what I want you to do, close your eyes. Matter of fact, don't close your eyes, right? In case you're driving like my girl Keisha was, don't close your eyes. But imagine for a moment, right? Either recall, maybe some of you had this experience, if you have, you're blessed, right? A sexual encounter where you felt just completely free, okay? Like, you weren't worried about nothing, all right? Ladies, you weren't worried about which way the breast was going, you understand what I'm saying? And you weren't worried whether you had dimples in your butt or, whether, like, you had stretch marks. It's so funny because my friend Patrick always says, he's like, he doesn't understand guys who would be like, oh, they like big boobs, but they don't like stretch marks, or they like big butts, but they don't like friggin' like cellulite. It's like they don't go separately. Like if her booty big, it's gonna be some dimples, like one or two, you know. And likewise with the thing, like that makes sense. So imagine like that you were with somebody who appreciated your body like that, okay? And for guys, you know, I know y'all be little, and we as women always talk about us being self-conscious, but the guys are self-conscious too, man, you know? So just imagine it was just free. You just knew you were the man. Ladies, you knew you were like the sexiest thing. Miss Jackson, if you nasty, like, you know what I'm saying? And it was awesome. Remember how like freeing that was? Or could you imagine how freeing that would be? That is how sex was for Adam and Eve, okay? It was just natural, like literally as natural as your need for food, okay? If y'all know, y'all have cats. Yeah, we have some cats. We have a boyfriend cat by us. He doesn't live by us, but he comes around cooting after the other cats, and you know, and he's crying behind them, and it's just natural, okay? That's what sex was all about. Now, when the Bible says they realized they were naked, okay? This is like a pivotal point in history, right? They've been doing the do all this time, right? And it was just natural. It was just like eating fruit. It was like, okay, whatever, like this is just what we do. And all of a sudden it says they realized they were naked. Now, okay, y'all gotta follow me on this one, right? I see the knowledge of good and evil as expressing the revelation, right? All of a sudden they've realized that pleasure can be separated from purpose. Okay, whereas before they were probably doing the do with their natural cycles again, all of a sudden they fell upon this thing called, I guess, creative desire, if you will, right? And to me, that's where the whole thing broke down, you see? Because it was like, what? So we could do this like all the time, and then we was doing like that, and ooh, that wasn't supposed to happen, and you know what I mean? Like all kind of stuff that now they could sit down and analyze, as the Jamaicans like to say. I love Jamaicans, they like to use big words. Yeah, what they analyze is that the serious situation was going on, right? Okay, so now here they are in the garden, and let me break that down for you again, right? When I was a kid, just to give you an example, right? When I was a kid, whenever I would go to sleep, like whenever we would bathe and go to bed, like none of us wore underclothes to go to bed. Like you wore your night clothes, your long night dress or whatever, but you didn't have to wear underclothes because my mother's thing was, listen, it's a natural thing and the thing need to breathe, okay? Like boom, bam, right? And I agree with that. The thing needs to breathe, it needs air, it needs oxygen, you understand? And so for me, like, I never thought anything about that because that was just like natural to me. Like I was innocent. I had no idea that these sorts of things, when you become an adult, are the same things that become, you know, sexual to you. Like I didn't know that if you tell a guy you don't wear anything to bed, it's like, ooh, hey, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know that. You don't realize that until you start getting older and you know you're a blabbermouth. Guys ask you questions and you answer like dead normal, and it's like, oh really? And it's like, oh wait, I didn't know, you know, that was a thing. And I think that was Adam and Eve. I mean, another perfect example is actually my cousin Jabari, right? In the States. So when we were little, he used to run around and lick our feet, okay? Me and his sister. And no lie, we just thought he was a weird little kid. Now, I haven't spoken to him in years, but I do wonder if, as an adult, he has like a foot fetish. Like, I would really love to ask him that. He's gonna kill me when he hears this. But I like to ask him because, you know, my mom and I have discussed things like this before, and we thoroughly believe that, you know, certain things that you do as kids kind of translate into things that you then sexualize as adults. And I think that was Adam and Eve, right? They were in the garden all that time, doing the do, very naturally, you know, very happily, having no idea about what is what. And then all of a sudden, like it says, you know, they realize that they were naked. You know what I'm saying? And to me, again, that's what changed things. The fall changed the psychology of sex, and we became bound by that. Even for those who wonder why women always feel like they have to have a man, you know, if you read the Bible, it says right there that you're going to long for your husband, okay? It didn't say you was going to think about having one, or maybe you was going to want one in the future. It's like, no, you are going to long for him, okay? Like strong desire, you need that thing. You understand? Okay, this is what we're talking about, right? So now, and I can tell you, I actually recall growing up in Clearwater again. I used to go to Woodlawn Church of God, and we have like the ladies ministry that would like meet on Tuesday nights. But like sometimes in the day, like midday sometimes, some of the ladies would get together and they would pray like for husbands. Like they would get together at the church. It was the single ladies ministry run by Beyonce. Right? But no, they would like get together and pray for husbands. And I guess I kind of thought it was a little strange as a kid. But now, as like a 33-year-old woman who I guess would technically be like a spinster or old maid, because I've never been married, right? Like when I was growing up, if you weren't like married with like 2.5 children and like your white picket fence by 30, like, life was over. That's what it was. So, as I'm getting up there now, I kind of realize that the longing for a husband could be a serious thing. Like that could create its whole own psychological phenomenon inside of a woman's head, right? And we're going to talk about that too. We're going to have some shows where we talk about things specific to men's psychology and things specific to women's psychology as well. But overall, the longing is a serious thing, right? And for me personally, I ain't gonna lie, I would like to be married. And I would be very honest and say that part of my reason for wanting to be married is because, like, I want to be, like, a stone cold freak, but, like, for one person. You understand what I'm saying? Because, like, when I was growing up, my whole thing was, listen, if you get married, then you get to have sex and go to heaven. You understand? Because, like, otherwise sex is just bad, but it's not the sex that's bad. It's, like, the context in which you're supposed to have it that apparently makes it bad. So I'm like, I need to get married, and then I could have great sex, and then I could still go to heaven and be right with God. Does that make sense to y'all? Leave your comments. Leave your comments on our social media pages at After Hours 242. But, like, I really figured that was part of the point, if not the entire point, right? I mean, it's really, truly the first commandment, if you think about it, the first instruction ever given: be fruitful and multiply. Replenish the earth. Now, I don't know exactly what gone down, why the earth needed, quote unquote, replenishing. That's a whole nother show again. But be fruitful and multiply, which basically means have sex, have babies, okay? That's what it was all about. Now, for us women who are the perpetuators, if you will, of the race, it's a powerful thing. And to be honest with you, I don't really blame women or men at this point. In all honesty, we've been trained to abuse our sexual powers, okay? We've been over-sexualized. Further to that, sex has been devalued, man. Like, and I always say it, there used to be a time where, as a woman, a guy would have to come like with like some land papers, a deed or something, or he'd have to have, a job, an inheritance, a trade, a something that he was doing, making an effort, in order to even like talk to the woman, right? Like mommy used to say back in the day here in the Bahamas, if you come to the house 3 times, like the 3rd time, buddy, you need to bring a letter of intent. Like, what are you here for? We need to know. You just can't be around here talking to the young lady, just chatting her up. Like, what is your purpose? You know what I mean? And we've come from that point in society where, it was truly may the best man win, to a point where it's like dudes, in my estimation sometimes, just expect you to have sex because they're a guy and you're a girl. And like, that's a good idea to them. Like, it don't matter. Like really, it's not about getting in a relationship. It's just literally like, hey, let me stick my thing in you. Like, what? Like, and to me, like, this is the point, like 200 years ago, I don't think that guys would really like approach you like that. 1,000 years ago, you couldn't just, like you had to have a plan, bro. You had to have a plan. You couldn't just, And at the same time, we women are guilty, and apparently there are some women who are very overt with this. I hear some of the older women who I'm getting there myself, but I hear some of them are very like, hey, what the thing do? And that's guys say that kind of freaks them out too. Like, it's like, wait, miss, I'm supposed to be the dominant one. If you could let me, make my move first, that would be great. But again, this devaluation of sex and this kind of putting it in the wrong place in our lives, right? And to be honest with you, as a woman, there are a few things that I really just like can't stand to hear. One of which is like when guys tell you you're high maintenance, and it's like, well, it's not that I'm high maintenance. It's just that I don't I'm not supposed to just sleep with you like that. Like, I'm supposed to, like, you're supposed to, like, demonstrate that you're some kind of provider, make a plan for long-term security. And to be honest, even marriage is socialized prostitution, right? Because you're providing security and future benefit for your wife in exchange for wifely duties that go beyond sex, hopefully, like, she cooks and stuff, you know what I mean? And, like, can invest your money. That's good. Because that Proverbs 31 woman, she wasn't just sitting home, man. It said she considers a field and she buys it. And that was a vineyard, honey, okay? We talking wine, my girl. You understand? She was a connoisseur. Either way, that's what it's about, right? Contributing to each other, but over a long, extended period of time. And, sex is like the icing on the cake. That's how I've always felt in relationships. And mind you, and we're going to talk about this because don't get me wrong. I was talking to an ex the other day, and a part of what we were talking about is the fact that, nowadays marriage is considered like when you go to the courthouse and get the papers. But really, marriage used to be like when you sleep with the person, like you have a spiritual contract with that individual. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about that as well. But, nowadays it's just like free up, man. That's all they want. They're worse than robbers, man. Just free up. Free up. Remember, who's that? Elephant Man? Free up. Stop, free up. Anyway, listen, man, this is how it is. And again, like I said, it's not just the men, it's the women as well. And I think just as a culture, we've been trained to have this like insatiable desire, not just for sex, but for like immediate sex. Like we need it now from whoever. We don't care. And yes, everybody has standards, but still, I think even those of us with standards could all admit that we found ourselves either doing something or someone that maybe wasn't the best for our lives or really didn't contribute to the overall picture and where we're going. You know what I mean? Obviously evidenced by the fact that we're no longer with that person, right? Yeah. Some of us, more than one person. You understand? Okay. So I was thinking about all this, right? And again, in the poll that we did, why do you have sex? All this made me realize that, again, and we realize it with other things, but I don't think we really apply it to sex, that when you don't know the true value of something, you'll abuse it, right? It's like casting your pearls before swine, okay? And the best analogy I could come up with for this was if sex was money, okay? Let's play like sex was money, right? If your sex, Tino, your sex is money, bro, okay? You understand? I ain't saying sell your sex. That ain't what I'm saying. But I'm saying that your choice to have sex with anybody is now money, okay? And we ain't talking about dollars, okay? No. We's ballers around here. We talking about blue marlins, $100 bills. That's what your sex is. Now, tell me this. Would you just walk around trying to give away your money? No way. You honestly just go walk around like, ooh, you look good. Here's some money. Like, no, boy, hold on. This is my hard-earned money. And that's the thing. And with money, we understand it because we put in physical effort to earn that money, right? But sex is innately tied to our emotional and our spiritual being and our spiritual health, right? And that's what we have to guard. Those are the things, how you feel about yourself on a daily basis, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, all of these things, right? And when you're giving that out to people who aren't like contributing back to you, it's like your spiritual cup is at some point going to be empty, right? Now, some people say it really doesn't affect them, okay? And we're going to talk about that whole no strings attached situation and people who could just like sleep with you and then like don't feel nothing afterwards. And like because really, now mind you, we ain't talking about like, oh, it was a mistake. Like, no, people who legit just like get in your life could really involve themselves with you and at the end of the day really turn very cold-hearted, you know what I mean, and do some serious stuff. I mean, I had a friend of mine, she was actually just engaged, right? And she found her baby daddy. Well, she didn't find. Somebody sent her a video, apparently. Lord, social media. Somebody sent her a video, apparently, of him in a vehicle with his baby mom. Doing do. Yeah. And again, it's like, okay, so you're all involved with this person. Like, you're supposed to be getting married to this person. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? And there are women who do things like that too, you know what I'm saying? And the husband's catching a flight and the flight is delayed or canceled and he comes back and finds a woman in the bed, you know what I mean? It's all sorts of stuff. And again, to me, this is the problem. It's not just that you're giving away parts of yourself, but the choices that we make, if you really consider it, right, often puts us in a position where even if you're okay with it at the time and you don't feel any emotional damage, if what you're doing or things you've done or the stuff in your phone, like we could talk about that in a second, was discovered, it would actually like damage your reputation, which means that still whatever you're doing isn't putting you in a healthy place, right? Now, again, you may say it means nothing, but all of us have an emotional cup. And when we misuse sex, right? And don't get me wrong, I personally have been in some wonderful relationships in life. And I very much believe that there are times when you meet someone and you get involved with that person and you kind of make up in your mind in the beginning that any heartbreak or any potential heartbreak is worth the experience. There are really people in this world that are just wonderful people to experience for a time, even though they may not be there for the lifetime, right? But at the end of the day, when you find that you're making like some negative decisions, right? When you find that, like we talked about last episode, the social media aspect, and you're kind of letting things get into your life and put you at risk. And again, we're going to talk about sexual addiction in a future episode. That's when you kind of got to realize that, okay, hey, this pleasure separated from purpose thing is causing a problem, right? Now, I was, again, checking online, doing my research at Le Google, right? Because Le Google is my research center, right? And I found this McAfee report. Now, McAfee is a internet, digital security company, we would say, right? And they did this report about privacy and dangers some years back. And it was talking about, of course, your content and what you share and like password protections and things like that. And what was so interesting is that they put this spin on it with sexual content because they realized that, hey, yeah, we're telling you about how you shouldn't share your passwords and this and that. But not only are you sharing your passwords, but what about all this content that you're giving people access to by sharing these things, right? And they found that 50% of adults have shared or received intimate content, right, on their mobile devices or through internet, laptops, your computer, that sort of thing. 50% have stored intimate content that could put their reputation at risk, okay? Now, have you ever thought about that? Like, okay, I'm going to freak some of y'all out right now, right? Imagine if, you just died right now. Like, blam, okay? And y'all know there are people, you might have a password on your phone. You maybe have someone who you think would throw it out, but there are people who could just, unlock the phone. How would you feel about that? Would you need to come back from the dead to sort that situation out? Really think about it. What if someone suddenly had access to all the files on your computer and the things that you download? What is your life, your real life, right? And that's some James Allen stuff. James Allen is an author. He wrote a book called As a Man Thinketh, right? And one of the points, and truly the overall point of the book, is that many times we claim that we suffer on account of our righteousness. And don't get me wrong, I am so guilty of this too. Trust me. But his point is that we often say that we suffer on account of our righteousness. Yet if we really truly consider the things that other people don't know about us, right? The things that we will refuse to even admit to ourselves, right? The inner thoughts, the desires that we have, the things we watch, the things we say, the conversations we have, again, things that just the public doesn't know. That we would realize that we're really not suffering on account of our righteousness, but most time suffering on account of this false reality that we're creating based on these other actions that we have going on, right? You create your circumstances based on your mindset. And so, again, now I'm not going to lie, because I sit in here thinking too, right? I'm like, I wonder what's on my phone or my laptop. Now, I don't do plenty naughty things, but I can't say I've been a saint, right? And it's a serious question for you to ask yourself, is it one slip up that just maybe could be there? And this is something that we have to reflect on, because again, we say that we're not addicted to sex and we say that we don't have issues with it, right? But again, if you do these things that could potentially put your name, your reputation, your family name and reputation at risk, then you really have to reconsider, that self-analysis and be more honest with yourself. Now, to be honest, while we say for some of us it's just sex and it doesn't affect us, the way that we're experiencing sex right now, our psychology, our thought patterns on sex and how we express it. Again, going back to the sex and social media, the sexual devaluation, it's a serious risk to our emotional health. And again, even if we're not getting burned, we are definitely playing with fire. And of course, speaking of playing, I think next episode we're going to talk about something I call the Pinocchio effect. Yeah? And I just thought myself, that's not what I mean by that. I don't know if you're only thinking what I'm thinking right now. Stop thinking that. That's not what I mean by the Pinocchio effect. I'm not talking about anything growing. I'm talking about no strings attached. You remember the song? I got no strings to hold me down, to make me something, make me frown. No, I got no strings on me. No, I was in Pinocchio, man. I used to do plays and stuff as a kid. Big shout out to Joey Miazga. Yeah, Joey Miazga and Gidget Cross, who were two drama teachers for me coming up. But yeah, the Pinocchio effect, right? And just to give you an idea of how much I want to discuss this and exactly where I want to go with this, when we talk about no strings attached, and we're gonna put a poll up on our Facebook page and in the group as well. So definitely check it out. Again, the page at More Sexy Vanessa, the Facebook group at After Hours 242, right? And the poll is gonna be about your terms for sex, okay? Because no strings attached, of course, it's one of those things been going around for a long time. You hear people always saying it, even beyond, it used to be friends with benefits, right? And to me, the friends with benefits thing was like, okay, but you had to be actual friends. Now, the no strings attached is like, frig friends, okay? Let's just be honest. We just gum juice and that's it, right? And I don't find that exactly natural, right? I want to discuss the psychology behind that because, yes, all of us at some point or another may be guilty of perhaps involving ourselves with someone that we shouldn't have, or maybe it wasn't good. I don't know, like you just didn't like the experience. Okay, granted. But for persons who kind of perpetually seek out this non-connection, okay? I'm not talking about friends with benefits. I'm not talking about dating. I'm talking about people who are just like, I want to see you strictly for sexual reasons. And further to that, we're going to make a rule that neither of us is allowed to have any emotions for the other. That is concerning to me. I don't think people like that are normal. How are you gonna just keep sleeping with somebody and you're not gonna develop any feelings whatsoever? Like, no, none whatsoever. That's the rule. That makes sense. Like, that doesn't, I don't understand. It's dumbfounding. You hear me? I'm not speechless. No, I'm never speechless. But I'm dumbfounded. Obviously, I'm trying to find the right words to articulate how much that, I don't want to say confuses me, but truly disturbs me. Because again, to me, it's a sign that we are just so desensitized. And I'll even share, because, again, I want you guys to be able to share your personal experiences. I have no problem whatsoever keeping you anonymous. You could even send us an email to MAD, M-A-D, mediamarketing@gmail.com. I have no problem. Keep you anonymous. But you may want to get your story out there. You may want other people to give you some feedback as well, and we can assist you in doing that. But I'll definitely share my experience. And my most recent experience with that was in a situation where I didn't agree for it to be a no strings attached situation. But again, it speaks to the effort that people will put in just to kind of get your guard down and then still seemingly go cold, right? Like from hot to cold. I knew this guy last year. I knew him for quite some time, and he used to come by my friend's shop, and a really sweet guy, really intelligent. Now, during the time I knew him, I think I even was dating someone or something, so nothing ever happened then. But my birthday was coming up. I was single, and we went out night before my birthday and on my birthday, and it was really nice. He's a really sweet guy, and we had I'm talking about like Erykah Badu type conversations, right? And you know what they say about Erykah Badu? Like, when you date her, you just don't be right afterwards, right? You see Common, apparently Common dated her. He ain't right. Like, he gone all super spiritual hip hop. Don't get me wrong, I love him and I love the concept and I love the ideas, and that's kind of that's kind of how it was with us in terms of the level of conversation. Andre 3000, he's another one that dated Erica. Yeah, you know, you get some eccentric ideas, people with eccentric ideas, and it's kind of really great. There's this great vibe and this great energy. And so, you know, finally, of course, it's my birthday, right? So, you know, yeah, I'm looking forward to do. And I did, you understand? It was really great. And, you know, I felt like we had just built up this wonderful level of trust, man. It was great. It was awesome. And I was like, wow, you know, this has the potential to really turn into something, you know, great. And then, like, I lied. We did 2 nights in a row, right? The night before my birthday and my birthday. And mind you, we had a conversation and I said very specifically, right? I remember these words. And ladies, use this one. Tell him, you know, I don't want to just be another condom wrapper on the floor, right? Bam, isn't that awesome? And it's friggin' great, right? It was like movie worthy. But I was like, you know, that's not what I'm into, you know? Yes, we've arrived at this point where we feel we can be close with each other, but if we're actually going to go all the way, you know, it has to be something more. And so, you know, 2 great mind-blowing nights. And then, like, the dude didn't, like, call for, like, 4 days. Like, mind you, I will confess, his phone was, like, messed it up, right? And the dudes always have that, you know, well, my phone. And then, you know, for our international listeners, those of you who don't know, prior, up until about 1.5 years ago, we only had one cellular provider, BTC. And I will say BTC has a wonderful reputation right now, as good as it can be, I suppose. But there was a time when, you know, we have islands, 701 islands and keys. It's difficult to run all that infrastructure, you know? And it's like here in the Bahamas, if a guy or a girl tells you, oh, well, I didn't get the call, it was must be BTC, like, you can't even argue with that. Like, you can't even say nothing because it could be true. Mind you, they could be like lying straight through their teeth. But yeah, it could also very much, and probably is 98% of the time, you know, true. It could be true. So, you know, his phone was messed up. And when I say messed up, like, it was all like cracked and like he could only like voice note and like couldn't read the text. And so, you know, we were at the point where I actually I bought him a phone, right? Now, I will say this. The only reason I still have like one little grain of respect for him is because he didn't take the phone, okay? And to me, that was odd. I was like, He's like, oh, no, I just, you know, I ordered a phone. My phone will be here in like a few days and this and that. But I think it was really, you know, his heart saying, I can't take this phone because I know that I only play in the game, if you understand what I'm saying. And it really was because, yeah, we kept talking and, like, you know, it was a little on and off. And at first he did some things to try and make some effort or whatever. But really, at the end of the day, he wasn't ready for the relationship. And we got to talk about that subset of people right now who, for the guys, and I can only speak about that because I like men, right? For the guys, it's like some of them will tell you that, no, they're not exactly ready for a relationship, but then they're not always so upfront with that. They'll tell you, yes, I would love to have a wife. They just don't tell you that that's like their 10-year plan. Well, that's your like 2-year plan. You understand what I'm saying? So it kind of throws you off a little bit, right? And again, I thought we were at such a good place, man. But like I said, he didn't take the phone because he knew he was just playing the game. And at the end of the day, like I said, this subset of people who don't want ratchets, all right? Now, y'all know what ratchets are. I'm not talking about the tools, right? They don't want any gal, as we'll say in the Caribbean, right? They don't want any just, you know, girl off the street or whatever. They value themselves enough to know that even though they only want sex from a particular type of woman, okay? And so that's kind of like where the danger comes in for us women who fall into that category of being that particular type of woman, because they know they can't just come to you and here we would say, you know, buy you some bamboo shack, right? But they know they can't just come to you and be like, hey babe, let me get some and get it. So they have to play along, and some of them will go, I mean, I've had ladies tell me that, you know, they had guys wait for years and guy gets it. I mean, I don't know if it was a revenge thing at that point. Like, what? I just wanted to hit it once because you make me wait so long. I don't know. But, you know, they will play the game still to only have the ultimate objective as the people who aren't playing the game and who are honest with you and say, hey, listen, this is really all it's about. And to be honest with you, I more so respect the person who tells me, listen, this is what it's about, because then I can make up my mind and say, well, listen, I don't know if I just want it to be about that, you know, especially for me now, I'm 33. I'm not about that, you know. I'm looking for some sort of stability, or I can be, you know, by myself. I have lots of books to read. I have lots lots of reading to catch up on, right? And we're going to talk about that too. The need, the ultimate need, you know, guys will tell you it's going to fall off, and women will tell you they'll be just fine. We're going to talk about who really needs sex the most, right? Either way, like I said, with this guy, you know, that was just one example. And I'd love to hear some examples from you all of, you know, what your terms are for sex. If you're into this no strings attached situation, if you've been a part of the dream selling, you know, because I understand girls do it too, that, mind you, their goal might not be the sex. Their goal might be the money or other things that they could get from you, right? While perpetuating this so-called relationship, even though they know they don't want to be with you. Because listen, we want to be fair. Guys, tell me. Call them out, man. I mean, don't call no names, but you understand what I'm saying? Let me know where us ladies are fouling up too, man, because we want the truth to be out there, you know? This is what we're talking about. Sexy, honest, intellectual conversation, all about sex, love, relationships, life. That's what it's about, man. So next episode, that's what we're talking. The Pinocchio effect, no strings attached. What are your terms for sex? Let us know. You can, you know, leave some comments here if you want to get a conversation started on SoundCloud. Of course, you can follow us again on, you know, Twitter, Facebook at After Hours 242. On YouTube, my channel is at More Sexy Vanessa. Also on Instagram and Twitter, and Facebook at More Sexy Vanessa. Okay, you can find those accounts there as well. It's been a wonderful night. As always, I think I've bent your ear enough. Big ups to Street King Records. Yeah, Tina, the producer, doing big things as always. Again, a shout out to all of our chat groups, especially After Hours 242 on WhatsApp. Love you guys so, so much. And of course, we're looking forward to lots more great conversations. So yeah, man, jump in, join us. Loving you as always. Right now, that's a wrap if you haven't guessed it. Again, a new episode every Sunday at 11 p.m. Oh, and I didn't mention, we're getting on iTunes as well. So for all you elitists, I think Apple users are elitist, but that's okay. We'll talk about that in the show too, right? We will be on iTunes as well coming up, so definitely keep an eye out for us there. Thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to hearing from you. I am Sexy Vanessa. Shalom. Until next time.